Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, spent his life studying the complexities of the human psyche. His work revealed profound truths about human nature, including the dangers of ignorance and foolishness. Jung believed that foolishness isn't simply a lack of intelligence. It's a deeper issue rooted in emotional immaturity, arrogance, and the refusal to confront one's inner self. In his teachings, he warned us about the traits that define a foolish man and how they can wreak havoc on his life, relationships, and even society as a whole. But why should we care about this? Because foolishness is a trap that anyone can fall into. It's not limited to those who are uneducated or inexperienced. It can affect even the most intelligent and capable individuals if they lack self-awareness. Jung's warnings serve as a wake-up call for all of us. Recognizing these traits isn't about pointing fingers or judging others. It's about understanding ourselves and taking steps to avoid these pitfalls. The goal is not perfection, but growth, wisdom, and the ability to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. In this video, we'll explore 7 signs of a foolish man as outlined by Jung's teachings. These traits are not only harmful to the individual, but can also negatively impact those around him. Let's dive into the first sign and uncover what it really means to be foolish. Sign number 1. Arrogance over wisdom. Arrogance is often mistaken for confidence, but in reality, it's one of the most destructive traits a man can possess. Jung described arrogance as the illusion of superiority, a belief that one knows everything and is above others. This mindset blinds a man to his own flaws and prevents him from seeking wisdom or learning from others. A wise man knows he knows nothing. A foolish man believes he knows it all. Arrogance manifests in many ways. Dismissal of advice. A foolish man ignores the insights of others, believing he doesn't need help or guidance. He often rejects constructive criticism, viewing it as a personal attack rather than an opportunity to grow. Overconfidence in decision-making. He takes unnecessary risks, convinced of his infallibility. This can lead to financial losses, damaged relationships, or poor career choices. Superiority complex. He looks down on others, believing they are less capable or less intelligent. This alienates him from those around him, creating a sense of isolation and resentment. Jung warned that arrogance is a barrier to personal growth. A man who believes he knows everything will never seek to improve himself. He is stuck in a cycle of ignorance, repeating the same mistakes and blaming others for his failures. Why is arrogance so dangerous? Arrogance prevents a man from seeing reality clearly. It creates blind spots in his perception, making him unaware of his weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Over time, this can lead to stagnation. Without the ability to learn or adapt, he remains stuck in the same patterns, unable to achieve his full potential. Broken relationships. His arrogance pushes people away, leaving him isolated and unsupported. Missed opportunities. By refusing to listen to others, he overlooks valuable insights and chances for growth. How to overcome arrogance. Jung believed that humility is the antidote to arrogance. A man must first recognize that he doesn't have all the answers and that there is always room for growth. This requires listening to others. Actively seek advice, feedback, and perspectives from those around you. Practicing self-reflection. Regularly examine your thoughts, actions, and beliefs to identify areas for improvement. Embracing vulnerability. Admit when you're wrong. Ask for help, and be open to learning from your mistakes. Arrogance may feel like a shield against insecurity, but it ultimately leads to failure and isolation. By cultivating humility and a willingness to learn, a man can transform this destructive trait into a source of strength and wisdom. Sign number 2. Emotional immaturity. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of emotional intelligence in achieving personal growth and forming meaningful connections with others. Emotional immaturity, on the other hand, is a hallmark trait of a foolish man. It's not simply about being overly emotional, it's about lacking the ability to manage and understand one's emotions effectively. A foolish man often lets his emotions control him rather than learning to control them. This can manifest in several ways: anger and impulsivity. He lashes out in frustration or anger, unable to pause and reflect before reacting. This impulsiveness often leads to conflicts and damaged relationships. Avoidance of vulnerability. He avoids expressing deeper emotions like sadness, fear, or love, believing that vulnerability is a sign of weakness. This prevents him from forming genuine connections with others. Fear-driven decisions. Instead of acting rationally, he lets fear dictate his actions, whether it's fear of failure, rejection, or change. Jung believed that emotional immaturity is closely tied to the inability to confront one's inner self. A foolish man avoids introspection and refuses to acknowledge his emotional wounds, leaving them unhealed and festering. Why is emotional immaturity harmful? Emotional immaturity doesn't just affect the individual, it impacts everyone around him. It creates toxic relationships. His inability to manage emotions leads to misunderstandings, arguments, and resentment. Poor decision-making. Emotional impulsivity often results in choices that are short-sighted and harmful in the long run. Stunted personal growth. Without emotional awareness, he remains stuck in the same patterns, unable to grow or evolve. How to overcome emotional immaturity. Jung believed that developing emotional intelligence is essential for overcoming this trait. This involves acknowledging emotions. Learn to identify and name your emotions rather than suppressing them. Practicing mindfulness. Pause before reacting to emotional triggers, allowing yourself time to process and respond thoughtfully. Seeking support. Don't be afraid to seek guidance from trusted friends, family, or even a therapist to better understand your emotional patterns. Emotional maturity requires courage, the courage to confront your feelings, embrace vulnerability, and take responsibility for your actions. By doing so, a man can build stronger relationships and achieve greater inner peace. Sign number 3, avoidance of responsibility. One of the clearest signs of a foolish man, according to Jung, is his refusal to take responsibility for his actions. Instead of owning up to his mistakes, he blames others, makes excuses, or avoids accountability altogether. This trait is deeply rooted in fear, the fear of failure, judgment, or the consequences of his actions. Avoidance of responsibility often looks like this: blaming others. He shifts the blame for his failures onto external factors, his boss, his partner, or even bad luck. This prevents him from learning from his mistakes. Excuses and denial. He rationalizes his behavior with excuses, refusing to admit when he's wrong or when he's fallen short. Procrastination. He avoids taking action or making decisions, hoping that problems will resolve themselves. Jung believed that responsibility is a cornerstone of maturity. A man who avoids responsibility remains stuck in a state of childishness, unable to grow or achieve his potential. Why is avoidance of responsibility dangerous? This trait doesn't just hold a man back. It actively harms his relationships, career, and personal development. It leads to broken trust. People lose faith in him when they see he's unwilling to take accountability for his actions. Missed opportunities. By avoiding responsibility, he misses chances to learn, grow, and prove himself capable. Stagnation. Without accountability, he remains stuck in the same patterns, unable to break free and evolve. How to embrace responsibility. Jung taught that taking responsibility requires courage and self-awareness. A man must first recognize where he's falling short and then take action to correct it. This involves owning your mistakes. Admit when you're wrong and apologize when necessary. Learning from failure. Instead of blaming others, reflect on what went wrong and how you can improve in the future. Taking proactive steps. Don't wait for problems to resolve themselves. Face them head on and take action to find solutions. Responsibility is not a burden. It's an opportunity to grow, earn respect, and build a life of integrity. Jung believed that by embracing accountability, a man can transform his failures into stepping stones for success. Sign number 4. Resistance to change. Carl Jung believed that growth requires change. To evolve as individuals, we must challenge our beliefs, adapt to new circumstances, and embrace the unknown. However, a foolish man resists change at all costs, clinging to outdated habits, ideas, and routines. This resistance stems from fear of uncertainty, fear of failure, and fear of losing control. A foolish man often demonstrates resistance to change in the following ways: clinging to the past. He romanticizes past successes or familiar routines, refusing to acknowledge that the world around him is evolving. Rejecting new ideas. He dismisses innovations or alternative perspectives, believing that his way is the only way. Avoiding challenges. He stays firmly within his comfort zone, avoiding situations that require effort, risk, or adaptation. Jung warned that this resistance is a form of self-sabotage. By refusing to change, a man limits his potential and locks himself into mediocrity. Growth requires discomfort, and a foolish man's unwillingness to face that discomfort prevents him from achieving greatness. Why is resistance to change harmful? Resistance to change doesn't just hold a man back. It actively damages his relationships, career, and personal development. It leads to missed opportunities. By refusing to adapt, he overlooks chances to learn, grow, and succeed. Stagnation. His unwillingness to change keeps him stuck in the same patterns, preventing progress. Alienation. His rigidity makes it difficult for others to connect with him, especially in an ever-changing world. How to embrace change. Jung believed that the key to overcoming resistance is to shift one's mindset. Change should be seen not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth. This involves practicing openness. Be willing to explore new ideas, perspectives, and experiences, even if they challenge your beliefs. Facing fear. Acknowledge the fear of change and confront it head-on, rather than letting it control your decisions. Setting goals. Focus on the benefits of change by setting clear, achievable goals that motivate you to move forward. Change is inevitable, and those who resist it are left behind. By embracing change, a man can unlock his potential and become stronger, wiser, and more adaptable. Sign number 5. Superficial values. One of the most destructive traits of a foolish man is his obsession with superficial values. Jung warned that placing excessive importance on external markers of success, such as wealth, status, and appearance, leads to emptiness and dissatisfaction. A foolish man prioritizes these shallow pursuits while neglecting deeper values like integrity, kindness, and wisdom. Superficial values manifest in several ways. Materialism. He equates happiness and self-worth with possessions, believing that money and luxury will bring fulfillment. Status seeking. He craves recognition and approval from others, often sacrificing authenticity to maintain an image of success. Focus on appearances. He prioritizes how things look over how they truly are, ignoring substance in favor of style. Jung believed that this obsession with superficial values is a defense mechanism, a way to avoid confronting deeper insecurities or fears. By distracting himself with external validation, a foolish man avoids the difficult work of self-reflection and inner growth. Why are superficial values dangerous? Superficial values may bring temporary satisfaction, but they ultimately lead to long-term dissatisfaction and harm. They result in shallow relationships. By focusing on appearances and status, he fails to build genuine connections with others. Inner emptiness. Material possessions and external validation cannot fill the void created by neglecting deeper values. Unethical behavior. In pursuit of wealth and status, he may compromise his integrity or harm others. How to prioritize deeper values. Jung taught that true fulfillment comes from embracing values that nourish the soul, rather than feeding the ego. To overcome superficiality, a man must reflect on what truly matters, identify the values, such as honesty, compassion, and wisdom, that bring lasting fulfillment. Practice gratitude. Focus on appreciating what you already have, rather than constantly chasing more. Build authentic relationships. Prioritize connections based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than appearances or status. Superficial success is fleeting, but deeper values create a foundation for a life of meaning and purpose. Jung believed that by shifting focus from external validation to inner growth, a man can find true happiness and fulfillment. Sign number 6. Lack of self-awareness. Carl Jung emphasized that self-awareness is the foundation of personal growth. Without the ability to see oneself clearly and objectively, a man remains trapped in his illusions, mistakes, and limitations. A foolish man lacks self-awareness, unable to recognize who he truly is or how his behavior impacts others. How does a lack of self-awareness manifest? Ignoring personal flaws. A foolish man refuses to admit his shortcomings, often blaming external factors for his problems instead of recognizing his own role. Avoiding introspection. He shies away from reflecting on his emotions, motivations, and actions, preferring to live on the surface. Overpowered by ego. His actions are driven by ego, seeking approval or fearing rejection, rather than authenticity or self-understanding. Jung believed that lacking self-awareness is one of the greatest barriers to wisdom. Without the ability to critically evaluate oneself, a man repeats the same mistakes, remains stuck in destructive patterns, and constantly searches for external scapegoats. Why is lack of self-awareness harmful? A lack of self-awareness has profound consequences, affecting not only the individual but also those around him. Damaged relationships. His inability to see how his behavior impacts others leads to misunderstandings and conflict. Stagnation. Without self-reflection, he cannot grow or learn from his mistakes. Poor decision-making. A foolish man often acts impulsively, failing to consider the long-term consequences of his actions. How to develop self-awareness. Jung taught that the path to self-awareness begins with the courage to look inward and accept the truth about oneself. This involves self-reflection, regularly asking yourself questions like, why did I act the way I did? What motivated my decision? Accepting feedback, listening to others who can offer perspectives on your behavior that you might not see yourself. Understanding emotions, learning to recognize and process your emotions rather than suppressing or ignoring them. Self-awareness is not a weakness. It is a strength that enables growth, improvement, and deeper understanding of oneself and the world. Sign number 7. Refusal to learn. The final yet equally destructive trait of a foolish man, according to Jung, is his refusal to learn. Jung believed that life is a continuous process of learning, not just academically but emotionally, socially, and spiritually. A foolish man, however, thinks he already knows everything he needs to know, or fears admitting that he doesn't. This mindset shuts him off from new experiences, insights, and opportunities for growth. Refusal to learn often looks like disregarding new information. A foolish man rejects new ideas, fearing they might challenge his existing beliefs. Avoiding challenges. He avoids situations that could teach him something new, fearing failure or discomfort. Arrogance. He believes he has already reached a sufficient level of knowledge and sees no need to improve further. Jung warned that refusing to learn is a path to stagnation and decline. Life is dynamic, and those who resist learning ultimately fall behind. Why is refusal to learn dangerous? Refusing to learn has serious consequences. Missed opportunities. Without the willingness to learn, a man misses chances for personal growth, career advancement, or better relationships. Limited worldview. A foolish man remains trapped in his narrow perspective, unable to understand others or the world around him. Regression. Instead of progressing, He moves backward as the world continues to evolve, while he stays the same. How to overcome the refusal to learn. Jung believed that overcoming this trait requires humility and curiosity. Learning is not just about acquiring knowledge. It's about being open to new experiences and willing to admit that we don't know everything. To achieve this, embrace failure. Understand that failure is not the end, but an opportunity to learn. Seek new experiences. Actively pursue situations that challenge you and push you out of your comfort zone. Stay curious. Never stop asking questions and seeking answers. Learning is a lifelong process that enriches and propels us forward. Refusing to learn is refusing to grow, and ultimately, refusing to live. Conclusion: the path to wisdom and growth. Carl Jung believed that the journey to wisdom and personal growth requires self-awareness, adaptability, and a commitment to learning. The traits of a foolish man, such as resistance to change, superficial values, lack of self-awareness, and refusal to learn, are barriers that prevent individuals from reaching their full potential. These behaviors not only hinder personal development, but also damage relationships, limit opportunities, and lead to stagnation. True wisdom lies in the ability to embrace change, view challenges and new experiences as opportunities for growth rather than threats. Prioritize deeper values. Focus on integrity, authenticity, and meaningful connections instead of chasing superficial success. Cultivate self-awareness. Reflect on your actions, motivations, and emotions to better understand yourself and your impact on others. Commit to lifelong learning. Stay curious, open-minded, and willing to adapt to the ever-changing world around you. Challenge for you. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, where in my life am I resisting change? Am I prioritizing superficial values over deeper ones? Do I truly understand myself, or am I avoiding introspection? Am I actively seeking to learn and grow, or am I stuck in my comfort zone? Take one concrete step today to confront these questions, whether it's embracing a challenge you've been avoiding, reflecting on your values, or seeking out new knowledge. Commit to breaking free from the traits of foolishness. Growth begins with action, and the choice to move forward is yours.